What's up, what's up, what's up? It's Wh1tcomb. So today I'm going to go over my process for making phat EDM kicks and snares. So to start, let's talk about what are the basics of a snare and a kick when it comes to EDM. And you know what? My processes are actually similar for both a kick and the snare. So when you have your kick and your snare, the first layer you're going to want is a fundamental, and that's the oomph from the drum and the oomph from the bass drum, the oomph from the kick. With your kick drum, that's usually going to be around 20 hertz to like 100 hertz. For your snare, that's going to be around the 100 hertz to 500 hertz. So that's the range you're looking for that nice phat oomph. You're gonna want to layer for your transient, which is the snap you get from the stick hitting the head, or the beater hitting the head of the kick drum. So that's usually there's usually one transient around the 1K to the 5K range, and then there's another area that you're going to look to boost around the 10K to the 19K range. The third layer you're going to want is color, white noise, fully, something like a stomp maybe. I'll show that in here. Then after you've gotten the three layers, you're going to want to compress them. And what compressing is going to do is it's going to compress everything, and if your attack's long enough, it'll compress everything except the transient, which will help to make that transient pop through the mix. Then after that, I typically will do a saturate and a limit. The saturator makes that sample fatter, and then the limiter slams it, so it helps it punch through the mix. So that was all the same. That's what's the same with it. So you want a fundamental layer, a transient layer, color, then you want to compress it, then you want to saturate and limit it in order to make it louder. So now what's different is with the kick, you're going to want to make sure it's in mono. Any stereo imaging or any stereo information in the kick makes it harder to punch through the systems. And then snare, you're gonna want stereo, but you're also gonna want a nice punch in that mono area. The stereo is usually just kind of like a nice lush that comes with the white noise, etc. And then you're also gonna want to add some reverb with the snare. That's pretty typical with EDM style snares. It kind of washes over you, and that's just for the snare. You can do it for the kick, but you don't hear it as much. So now I'll go through what I was talking about. So when it comes to the fundamental on my kick, here's what the kick sounds like. So when it comes to the fundamental on my kick, I have a body down here, and you'll notice it's in that range that I was talking about. Nice thump to it. Okay, so that's my first layer. I believe this is also another thump. Yeah, but it's got more, it's kind of a thump and a transient layer. This top kick is, I believe, just a transient. Yeah, it's also, this is more of a color to it. So it's kind of providing the interesting aspect of it. And then I believe the stomp is also color. So yeah, it's color plus transient. So both these three are all kind of color, kind of transients, and then these two are color. So you'll see as I click through all of them, there's some overdrive in here to help bring out the high end of the transient, and then there's just some EQing to make sure that I'm getting either my transient or fundamental, or both if I like the sample. So now, I route these into a bus and bring it in here, and that's when we have the EQ8 doing some more with it. I think I found like a nice little like transient in here that I liked, so I kept it, and then I peaked here. I did a notch here in order to reduce some of the negative frequencies. Then, like I mentioned earlier, we have a glue compressor. And then another EQ just for taste. And then a saturator, an EQ8 to boost more in that top end, and then a limiter. And these are what make it loud. Okay, so then with the snare sample, here's my final sample. Okay, so as we talked about, we have the snare top, which is the transient. I believe this, yeah, there you go, it pops it through. The clap is color, and it's also got transient in there too. White noise is color, but it also provides a nice transient too. So you'll notice a lot of the time when I'm doing a color noise, it's also a good transient noise. Now these are just like before, I'm EQing them to make the transient pop here. Same with the overdrive there. Clap, I'm making the transient and the high wash part of that transient pop as well. And then white noise, I'm just getting rid of all my low end information. Now here's the body of that snare, that fundamental. But this is similar to what I talked to with the kick, where I have I also have a transient in there too with this specific layer. So I boosted my fundamental here and then boosted my transient there. So I bring this all together. What I did is I took these three and put them into a high bus so I could add reverb on. I didn't want reverb on this snare thump here, the fundamental, but I did want it on the reverb. I mean on the high bus. So that's where I was incorporating the stereo image. Is you know, I'm doing EQing it a little bit, glue compressing to bring out that transient. Then I'm doing a reverb, and then just making sure the reverb doesn't have too much of, has just the information I want as far as EQ goes. And then we take all that into the snare, and you know, I'm boosting my high end to give it a nice wash, another glue compress, a little bit of a dimension expander to give it some space, saturator to slam it, and a saturator for color and oomph, and a slam as well, and then a limiter for slam. Then you bring that all together and you get this. And then, you know, after I've done that, I bounce out my samples, and then I'll use fades just to cut them down to sound to make them sound what I want, to make sure they're not, and especially with this wash snare, it really washes for a while, so I wanted to trim that. Then I bounce it out into a sample pack. Well, I hope that was useful. Let me know if you have any comments down in the bottom. Subscribe. The more subscribers I get, if I get up, I think it's to 100, I get to have a custom channel, and that would be awesome. A custom URL title. Anyway, have a nice day, and I'm Wh1tcomb.